Welcome to the Pan-European Movement video channel. Immigration is a topic on the minds of many people. In fact, research done by the European Union shows that immigration is the #1 worry of people in most European countries. Italy recently has been closing its ports, and Germany has seen a political crisis, also due to immigration. This is why we decided to make another video on the topic of migration, and in this video we'll be analyzing a video by Guy Verhofstadt. Now, as many of you may know, the European Union has a rotating presidency, and Austria, which has a newly elected right-wing government, has taken over the presidency for the coming months. Now, the young Chancellor of Austria, Sebastian Kurz, came to the European Parliament to give a speech, which was in fact a quite modest and overtly pro-European speech. He, among other things, stated that you cannot have a Schengen open border zone inside of Europe without strong outside borders, which is a very logical statement with which we agree completely. He also called for the integration of the Western Balkan countries into the European Union, and he said that this is an important stage to complete the European project. Now, as a response to Mr. Kurz's speech, we had Guy Verhofstadt, leader of the Liberal fraction in the European Parliament, and he talked mostly about the topic of migration. Now, on many things we do agree with Guy Verhofstadt, on other things we don't. So we'll be analyzing Guy Verhofstadt's response, and we'll tell you exactly which points we agree on and which points we think are incorrect. Let's watch.
And then there is this so-called migration crisis. And why I'm saying so-called? Because I don't think it's a real migration crisis what we are living in Europe for the moment. It's a political crisis on the back of migrants. That is the reality.
So he's saying here that there is no migration crisis. He's in fact denying the migration crisis. While we have Italy closing its ports, we have hundreds of thousands of illegal economic immigrants already in Italy, living under bridges, in parks or on the street. The same is happening in France, in Germany and across Europe. There are hundreds of thousands of people who are unchecked, who came into our continent without any identification and who are extremely hard to send back to their home countries.
Look to the figures. Look to the figures. Before spreading fear into the populations and the public opinion, there were more than 1 million crossings in the Mediterranean in 2015. That fell to 360,000, too much in 2016. In 2017, 170,000. And now, in the first 6 months of the year, 45,000 crossings in the Mediterranean. That's 0.07% of the whole migration flows that exist worldwide. 68 million in all. So what we are talking about?
This is of course a bit insincere, because he is comparing the influx of almost 50,000 people, which is not a small number, with the total migration flow across the planet. Probably this also includes internal migration, so Chinese peasants moving to Beijing and to Shanghai, people in India moving to Mumbai. It doesn't do the process of finding solutions any good. Now let's continue to watch.
We are not talking, in my opinion, about an influx suddenly of people crossing the Mediterranean.
Yes, there's not a sudden influx, because the influx already has been going on. And there are many people who have posted these graphics, which show that immigration is way down in 2018 compared to the last years. Yes, this is of course logical, because in the past years we have seen millions of people coming into Europe because Angela Merkel openly invited them. It was meant for Syrian and Iraqi refugees, but as the statistics show, people from all over the world, from safe countries, took their chance and joined the refugee flow that came into Europe unchecked and unhindered. People from countries as far as Morocco to Bangladesh flooded our continent and many of them are still in Europe today.
We are talking about a political decision, an opportunistic decision of one Minister of Interior in Italy, Mr. Salvini, who created this problem that we have now on our plate. That is happening.
Okay, so we do not like Salvini because he tries to pass the problem on to other countries. He said, oh, let Malta take these people, let France take these people. Of course, we should find European solutions. Only Salvini did not create the problem. The problem was that we do not defend our outside borders. If one country at one point says we have enough, then it is not the creation of a problem, it is trying to find a solution to the problem. And in fact, Salvini, even though his style might not be to our liking, is basically enforcing the laws of his country.
And Mr. Salvini has a very simple opinion. He says, not in Italy, put them in Germany, put them in Austria, put them maybe in Hungary. That's Mr. Salvini. And Mr. Orban, who is a friend of Mr. Salvini, says, no, not in Hungary. We put them in Italy, or we push them in Germany, or why not in Austria? And then your friend, Mr. Seehofer, has another opinion, says, no, not in Germany. Let's push back them to Italy, or eventually to Hungary, and maybe to your country, to Austria. And you're saying, you already said it, you don't want them in Austria.
Okay, this is a bit of a waste of time. We understand the point, and indeed, we agree with Guy Verhofstadt on this. Do not pass the problem on to other countries. We should find a European solution and protect our outside borders.
You want them to stay in Italy, or in Germany, or to send them in Hungary. You see what the problem is, Mr. Chancellor? The problem in Europe is that the only consensus that the Council and the Prime Ministers and you and your friends can agree today is not in my backyard. That's the only consensus that you're capable for the moment. And that's the scandal of Europe. Don't talk about migrants. We are talking about a political crisis on the back of migrants. And what I'm asking you is not to be tough migration, illegal migration. You have to be tough on illegal migration. But when an asylum seeker is coming from Syria, when he enters the European Union, he's illegal before he asks for asylum.
He's illegal, but he can go to a normal border post if he wants to pass into a European country and ask for asylum there. He can say, I am from Syria, I do not have a passport, I want to apply for asylum. But this is not what is happening. It is not about asylum in the first safe country where people enter. It is about a better life. And this is not in any way to blame them, but this is just a statement of fact. As soon as people from a war zone leave the war zone and enter the first safe country, which in the case of Syria and Iraq was Turkey, as soon as they enter, they are safe. If they move to another country afterwards, they are not looking for safety, they are looking for a better life. Again, I don't blame them, but this is the fact. Angela Merkel, with her 2015 invitation, did not save a single soul. The people who came into Europe, encouraged by the German Chancellor, were already in a safe situation before they put one foot on European territory. Let's keep that in mind.
And what I'm asking you is to play the European card, as Austria has always done. And the European card is a real European border and coast guard. Back the proposals of the Commission before the end of the year with the Council. Secondly, make an agreement on Dublin. Parliaments have a position, the Council has no position for the moment. 3, create European reception centres where people can ask for asylum, inside or outside Europe.
Inside of outside, he meant inside or outside, but he used by accident the Dutch word for or, which is off. And I do agree with what Verhofstadt says here. We should create reception centres, preferably outside of Europe, where economic migrants are separated from genuine refugees. However, we also think that not everybody around the world who flees conflict should be allowed to enter Europe. Now, let me specify this statement. When the Syrian crisis was raging full on, which it still is, by the way, everybody who had a Syrian passport was allowed into Germany. So basically, if the entire population of Syria decided to come to Germany, they would have been allowed in. Do we really want the entire population, theoretically, of any nation around the world that happens to have an armed conflict to come into Europe and become European citizens? We think that shelter for refugees in centers in the region is a much better solution. And it's also fairer, because for every refugee you take into Europe and make a citizen, you can help 10 refugees with shelter and food inside their own region.
I don't matter what it is. What is important is that they are not falling into the hands of the smugglers and the criminal gangs. And finally, Mr. President, a legal, they don't like it, what I'm going to say now. A legal system for economic migration, what we absolutely need.
So a system for legal migration, we could have that, only for migrants, which we really need. Look at the job offers that exist in Europe, and if people cannot be found inside the European Union, yes, we can take them from anywhere around the world, as long as they have the qualifications.
So I'm concluding, Chancellor. You can count on the support of all this Parliament, not for big speeches against migration, but for European solutions on migration. Thank you.
Yes, again, we agree with a lot that Verhofstadt says, but it's also always so, when it's about migration, it's always framed in this way that, oh, you're against migration, you're against migrants. No, 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 it's about a massive influx of unchecked people coming into Europe, which has been going on now for many years. And that is a big worry for many Europeans, and that is a thing we and most Europeans want to stop. Thank you for listening. Long live Europe.